Welcome, everyone. Thanks for coming along to tonight's session. Let me just share my screen. So first off, just a little bit of background info on, I guess, what saasguru is. And then we'll get into the topic after that, which is object architecture and relationships. So there we go through. So saasguru is just a really great way where you can supercharge your, certification, so get you there quicker rather than trying to do it all alone on Trailhead by yourself. So they've got tailored programs, and you can see sort of in the screenshot on the side here, you get a few more metrics on how you're tracking along different areas, what your percentage completion is, and they've got lots of questions and little quizzes along the way. So tailor-made summarizing, bit of that gamification as well, so you can, I guess, get more constant feedback of how everything's going throughout. So really, it's kind of just a bridge between what you're doing on Trailhead. So it doesn't replace that, it complements that, and then helping you to get that certification because it's competitive out there. And then so, if you don't have your admin cert, you're really going to struggle against anyone else out there who does. So good way to do it. And then so on top of that, you'll also get access to the saasguru community. So with that, there's different mentors like myself and so other gurus on there, and then so you can ask your questions and then talk with other people who you're learning with along the way. And then, so there's Slack space for that. And so, just good to be around other like-minded people and things there. So, they've got over 12,000 people in there currently. So there'll be someone who'll know the answer to your question. I've got up here, we've got a discount code for everyone tonight. So if it's just my name, Stephen, with a V for Victor, and then 20 off the end, and then that'll get you 20% off your certification course. So enough of being a salesman. Let's get into the meat of why you're actually here. So object architecture and relationship. So I'm Stephen, I'm 6 times certified Salesforce consultant. So got admin, platform app builder, OmniStudio consultant, sales cloud consultant, service cloud consultant, and associate. So the agenda. So admin is obviously quite a large topic. There's a lot of things going. And then so I've got the exam outline here from Trailhead. So, just this link here for you. Hopefully you're all familiar with this if you're looking to sit the exam. And so today we're just looking inside the object manager and lightning, which is 20% of the whole exam. So it's a big chunk, but we're really just focusing on this first dot point. So the standard object architecture and relationship model is the main goal. So not covering everything else in there, just trying to sort of drill down, make this a little bit more understandable for you all. So the main points we'll go over: difference between standard objects, custom objects, and then we'll look at the relationships. So relationships are going to be sort of in a parent-child model, and then there'll be lookup relationships, master detail relationships, junction relationships, and then we'll see how you can use the Schema Builder to create these relationships and view these relationships in real time. So to begin, what makes up an object? So I've got here, this is an export. So when you create a playground in Salesforce, which hopefully you've all done, so these are just your standard people. I just took all the data out from Salesforce and put it into an Excel spreadsheet. So you might recognize Sean Forbes, Rose Gonzalez, and all these names. So most people more familiar with Excel, a bit of a background there. So to translate Excel terminology into Salesforce terminology, you've got your columns. And so each column is a field. So ID is a column, first name is a column, last name is a column. So there's the ID field, the first name field, the last name field, the title field, and so on. In Salesforce, in Excel, you have rows. So like row 2, row 3, row 4, row 5. And that's where you'd store all your data in an Excel spreadsheet. But in Salesforce, this is what would make up a record. So when you are opening up and looking at a record page, that's where you'll see Rose Gonzalez, who's the SVP, working in the procurement department. So you'll just be looking at one row, one record at a time, usually. And when you put it all together, you get a whole table, which in Salesforce is called an object. So when you first create your object, all you're going to have are your different columns, your different fields. And then over time, you'll keep adding in more rows, more records. And then that object will keep getting bigger and bigger and getting a larger size over time. So there's two types of objects within Salesforce. So you've got your standard objects. They'll sometimes be referred to as out of the box or OOB. So if you ever see that, just realize that's the exact same thing. And then you've got your custom objects. So that's everything else which doesn't come out of the box, something which you as the admin or your team will be building. So your standard objects, kind of the most common ones you'll see, and which you need to be familiar with for your admin exam. This isn't by any means all of the standard objects, but the most common ones which you should have a good understanding of are accounts, contacts, leads, campaigns, opportunities, and products. And then custom ones you need to remember, but you don't really need to remember any custom objects, which is good for your exam, because a custom object could be anything. So they might reference something in a question, you know, the admin's built out this custom object to do this, but you know, you don't need to specifically look up anything there. When you start working for a company, you know, they'll have their own custom objects and you might need to build something based on a business case scenario. So drilling down a little bit more into what these standard objects are and what they're used for. So your account object, this is kind of the centerpiece, the pinnacle in Salesforce. So sort of nearly everything starts with an account, will be related to an account. And this is going to have all of your company information. So most Salesforce orgs are going to be, you know, some sort of business selling something, and then you're often selling to other companies or customer accounts and things like that. So your account, company information. Then the next thing, every business needs to make money somehow. And then so that's what your opportunity object is for. So it'll store all the information about a potential sale. And then that will be related to an account. So one account can have many child opportunities underneath it, because you might be doing repeat business with repeat business with another company, another business. And so hopefully you will have multiple opportunities. The next one is your contact. And so contacts are people, and it's the people which you're dealing and interacting with. So the main difference between a contact and a lead, so leads are also people in a way, but really I think sort of a better way to think about leads is like a business card. So it's when you've got just very little information about them. You know, if someone hands you a card and if you got their name, maybe their phone number, maybe their email, and maybe the place where they work, but you might not know what that business does yet at all. Like you just got a little bit, whereas when they become a contact, then, you know, that's sort of, oh, you started emailing them, talking with them, and, you know, they want to interact with your business. So leads they get converted, promoted up to become a contact. And then during that conversion process, that's where you create a contact and an account, or the account might already exist, but now you're meeting a new person at that company. So they might, you know, join an existing account. And then if, you know, you've got this business card off the person because they want to buy something from you, then you've got an opportunity to make a sale, but that's optional. Sometimes you just be meeting someone and they'd be good to know in future and create an opportunity, but not right now. So next common object you'll see are your activities. So this is all your events, your to-do list, your tasks, things like that. So, you know, keep track of how you're making the sale or how your users are going to be making the sale, your salespeople. Your campaigns, so these are the big marketing events, and so they can be you know, related to accounts or contacts. So you might want to be marketing everyone who lives in the West Coast of America, or you want to do all the North America people. However you're segmenting your campaign, just think about it like that. And then cases, so cases are more common in service type businesses. So if you think, you know, last time your phone or your internet went out or something and you had to call up the call center, so they would have created a case using their CRM. And then that's where they can track, you know, the contact that they're dealing with, the issue that they're having, and then how you can solve that along the way. So these, I think, probably the most 7 important you want to have a bit of an idea about, and we'll have a look at sort of how they all interrelate as we go along. So a custom object, I just made a little example for you all because of the World Cup we've got going on at the moment. So think if you had a client who did, you know, football or soccer like a training facility, and then they wanted a way where they could have an idea of how well their players were performing. So they wanted to assess what their skills are like. So with standard Salesforce objects, we don't really have a way where we can say, this person who I deal with, this contact is, really good at dribbling, or they're a really good goalkeeper. They saved, 8 out of 10 of the balls, the penalty shootout or whatever. So for this, this is an example where you could make a new object. I've called it player assessments, and then we'd store information about the player's abilities here. So, their dribbling, passing accuracy, shot accuracy, agility, speed. And then over time, they could have multiple different assessments. So you might do pre-season, mid-season, post-season, and you could also have different types of assessments. So you'd have a different assessment for the goalie that you would the striker or the midfielder and things. And so all of these would then be looking up, they'd be related to a player or a contact, but they'd be related, to that person level. So the two main object relationships, what relationships do is they associate two objects together. So like we were talking about there, a player assessment is related to a contact, or a contact's related to an account, an opportunity is related to account, a contact's related to a case. So they allow you to view the related data on a record page. So what I mean by that, that's when you see those blue little hyperlinks on the pages. So that's where you're seeing the name of if you're on a contact record page, where you're seeing the name of an account, even though you're looking at the contacts page. So you can see multiple things at once. So the most common you're going to be dealing with is the lookup relationship. But you should also be familiar with master detail as well, which is similar, but there are some differences. So lookups, they're what's called a loose link relationship. So why they're a loose link is one of the big things. If you delete the parent record, they may not get impacted. You could have some automation or some other rules in there or some settings which would do it, which would make an impact, but it's not by default. Lookups, you can also do a self lookup. So when one object looks at itself. So this can be great for hierarchies. So if you think of, McDonald's, you might have a McDonald's in your the metro of your city, and then that's owned by a larger McDonald's, which looks after the entire city. And then that McDonald's is owned by an even larger McDonald's group, which is the state that you live in, and then the country. So all of this is an account looking to an account, looking to an account, looking to an account over and over again. Can't do that with a master detail. It needs to be to a different one. And then so this here, this 1:**, you may see this written out in relationship diagram. So this means one too many. So one's obvious, but this star, this asterisk, it just means many. So this is where one account can be related to many contacts, because obviously many different people work at a business. So it's that one to many. So one, the parent, many, the child. So one of the other key things to remember, can sometimes come up in the exam, is the limitations on lookup. So there'll be up to 40 lookup relationships. So usually if you're doing more than that, you kind of got to think why you're looking to 40 different objects, and you might need to be separating this out at that point in time anyway. But you may have a question come up, so-and-so admin is trying to build, needs to build 45 lookup relationships. This is possible. And then obviously you got to remember that's a limitation there. So here as well, I've got just between the child and the parent. So how they'll look. So when you're on the child record, so like I was saying before, when you're in the child, you'll see the parent as a lookup field. So that's where you'll see that blue hyperlink where contact would look up to an account. But when you're on the parent record, like the account record, if you need to see the children, you'll look in the related list section. So you'll see the related records there. So master details. So another type of relationship, and this is conversely a strongly coupled relationship. So what that means by strongly coupled, if there's a change made to the detail, the child, this may cause a change to the master, the parent. Additionally, if you delete the parent, by default, the child will be deleted straight away. Well, not by default, sorry. It will be deleted. So if you delete the master, you will delete the detail as well. This is where I meant to say default. So a child cannot be reparented by default. So once you create that relationship, they're bound together for life. Like marriage, no divorce, unless you change the settings, and then you can divorce it, and then you can reparent it. But you need to specifically go into the backend, into Object Manager to change that. One of the other things, there's standard fields on all objects, and one of them is who owns the record, except for in details where the owner ID field doesn't actually exist because the detail inherits its ownership from the master. So if Steven Trumble goes in and I create, a contact record, and then I had a detail to that, automatically I'd still own that record, and nobody could reparent it at all and take ownership if I was to leave a company or something. So they'd have to go to the contact and become the owner of the contact, and then they'd own the child detail record. So with that, because the master sets the record ownership, this is going to impact your security settings and your permissions. So whatever permissions you have on that master, you'll have the same permissions down on the child. So if you can see the master, you can see the detail. If you can't see the master, you can't see the detail. And then this one, big limitation here, only 2 master detail relationships per object. So remember, 40 with Lookup, 2 with master detail. So this is one of the other reasons you're going to be seeing a lot more Lookup relationships, because you can quite quickly run out of the ability to make additional master detail relationships. Okay, so the next bit, many-to-many relationships. So many-to-many relationships. So there are times where you'll need to relate multiple of one record to multiple of another record. So multiple records in one object to multiple on another. So one of the most common examples, which you'll see a lot, is an opportunity could have many products. And then, so if you want your opportunity, say you're working in industry sector and you need to sell, 3 different generators to someone. So you've got the opportunity, the deal, and you need to sell that product 3 times. But that product, it could, a version of it could also be going to a different business. You've got 1,000 of the same generator, but this person's only buying 1 of your inventory. So you can't just sell that direct one to that opportunity. So instead, what you do is you create a 3rd object. You put a man in the middle, the junction, and then this is where your master detail fields come in. And you'd call this junction object, well, you wouldn't call it, it's already named opportunity products. So this can be a little bit hard to wrap your head around. So I've got a few different examples to hopefully make it a little bit clearer. So this is what junction objects will look like. So you have a master at the top, 2 masters at the top, and then the detail in the middle. So this is my crudely drawing diagram, but if you see kind of these 3 lines attaching to an object, that means many. So we've got, many going to 1. So you can have many detail records, but they'll all only look up to the 1 master. So the reason I've got a little asterisk next to master and detail is because when you create a junction object, you will need to create master detail relationships, but some of the standard ones that exist in Salesforce already, like opportunity product and opportunity product, these are technically actually just lookup relationships. So Salesforce has special lookup relationships by default, which let you do this, but you can't replicate that behavior. You'll need to build master detail, but there's always exceptions. So if we look here, so this is in the Schema Builder. So you can see here, we've got the opportunity, the product, and then the man in the middle, opportunity product. And if we look here, hopefully you can just make that out, but you'll see this is actually a lookup to the opportunity, and then once again, a lookup to the product. So another example of junction objects is account, contact, and in the middle, an account contact relationship. So why would you use this? So one contact may work at many different accounts. So right now, I'm working for saasguru. So I'm here as a mentor, but my main job, I work for Blue Engine Solutions. And then so because I can only, look up to one account via a direct lookup relationship, that wouldn't work. It wouldn't, within Salesforce, you wouldn't be able to see that, oh, Steven's on this account or this account. You're constantly being changing where I'm working. Wouldn't make any sense. So instead you create a relationship in the middle, an account contact, and then we can say, Steven has a mentor relationship with saasguru, and then Steven has a consultancy relationship with Blue Engine Solutions. And maybe Steven has I'm a donor or I'm a volunteer relationship with the Red Cross. And you can keep creating as many relationships as you want. Okay, and then another example, hopefully this is, so here, something which a lot of you are probably going to be doing soon is you'll be a candidate, which I've, denote with the _ C for our custom object. And you'll have many applications, or you'll have an application for a job position, but you're not just going to be applying for one job. You're going to be submitting multiple applications over time. So you'll be the one candidate and you'll do one application for saasguru, you do one application to Google, you do one application to Salesforce HQ. So they're the most common, the lookup and the master detail, which you're going to be doing 95% of your work on. But there are a few other relationships which you just should be aware of, especially for exams. And this might be the solution your business needs in the future. So other relationships, there's an external relationship. So this is a type of lookup relationship, but it's when an object in Salesforce looks up to an object or a table which isn't stored within Salesforce. So this is, you might be doing this for data storage reasons, or potentially because of security. You might, if you're dealing with super sensitive data, that person might not want their information stored, on a shared instance in Salesforce. So they'll pick a specific place they want it, but you're allowed to just look up there, but you can't store it on there. And then indirect relationships. So this is sort of the inverse. So this is where externally there's a child object which looks up to a parent in Salesforce. So once again, you could have this for the same reason, just you want to store elsewhere, either maybe it's cheaper or for security. And then this last one, the hierarchical. So this is unique just to the user object. So it's different to the account hierarchy I was explaining. So there's just within the user object, it's got its own hierarchy where you link just between other users. So one user looks up to another user, up to another user. And so this is, the classic when you create a new user and you put in who their manager is. So that's actually a hierarchy relationship rather than a lookup relationship. Okay, so last bit we'll get into is the Schema Builder. So what this is it's a visual interface where it can help you picture all of these objects and relationships and what we've done. And so it's a really good place when you're still trying to learn this, wrap your head around it. Yeah, so it's a really good place where you can just go in and start experimenting. Playgrounds are free. You're meant to break them. You're meant to cause issues. So just like spin up a new playground, create some custom objects, connect things to each other, see what happens, how it changes there. So what I thought we'd do is just a little demonstration of creating an object called book. Say that our client's a library and we want people to be able to rent or borrow a book from the library. And so for that, a contact is going to be taking the book out and then hopefully returning the book after there. And then so we know there's going to be a relationship between the book and a contact. So to get there to the Schema Builder, you just need to be in Setup. And then in Quick Find, just type in Schema. And then so it's in this Objects and Fields. Schema Builder here. And so when it opens up, often you just see this blank screen. I don't know. It's not the best UI, but there's this little one down in the bottom right corner here. Hopefully you can see where my mouse is circling. And so if you can see, it's a little bit darker blue. So that's actually what we're looking at. So we can drag around to start seeing, some of the different objects. And you've also got this really handy button here called Auto Layout. And so that'll kind of move everything in what Salesforce thinks is a easy way for you to see how everything's interrelated. On the left, you can choose which objects you do or don't want to see. So I set up this view beforehand, but often when you come in, it might be something like select all, and then it's just an absolute mess. So no one can make sense of what's going on here. So don't do this to yourself. These are all too many relationships going on. So instead, just clear this and then try and find, a few things which you do know. So I'll select account, and we can say opportunity, and we'll say contact as well, just for now. So just pick 3 objects. So you can see down here, there's just the 3 rectangles, and now we can get a bit of a nicer view here. So I know this is small. I'll try and zoom in just a moment. Okay, so once again, yeah, this is hard to, I guess, get a good zoom in because all these objects are quite large. So if we just look at these 3 objects for now, so we've got account in the middle, and we can see that there's a lookup relationship, this dark blue line to contact. And so you see it's just the 1 line at the top, and then those 3 at there. And so that's where we can see that it's got that relation to lookup to account. And then account, this red line has this hierarchy within itself. So accounts can look up to accounts over and over. So you can have those parent accounts, grandparent, great-grandparent accounts, and an opportunity as a child relationship to an account as well. So here they've got 2. So they've got the account name, which will, should always be filled in, because who else are you going to send the bill to? And then they've got a partner account, which is another lookup. So you might have 2 different account names on the single opportunity. So what you may realize is at the moment, there's no connection between opportunity and contact. And so this is because for this one opportunity may be related to many contacts. So what we're missing right here is the junction object, which is why we can't see anything. And then, so here it is right here. So opportunity contact role. And then, so if we put that one in, I'll just auto layout again. So now, hopefully you can see that there is actually a relationship between opportunity and contact through this junction object. So very similar to how a contact can be related to many accounts through the account contact relationship, but with an opportunity and a contact, instead it's called an opportunity contact role. So coming back to our book example, so at the moment, in this org brand new, we don't have a way where we could keep track of all that information. So if we want to create a new object to store all of this, you could go back to Object Manager if you like. Sometimes it's a bit nicer just to stay within the Schema Builder. So you could just click on Elements over here. And then within Elements, you've got all these options. And so they're sort of split into, I guess, they're different categories. So what we've been harping on about today is just these middle 3 here. So the lookup, the hierarchy, and the master detail. But to begin, we're just going to put a brand new object on the canvas. And then we'll call it book, plural books, starts with a consonant. And then in real life, you would put a description in here, but we'll just skip over that for now. And then for the book, most books are probably gonna have a title. If a real library, you're gonna have multiple books of the same title. You're gonna have 10 copies of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. So you might not actually want to have the data type as text there. So instead, you might have an auto number where you could have all these different numbers, and then you'd have title as a separate field. So we'll set it up like that. So for the display format, you can put whatever you like here. So you can put just book, or I'm going to put B dash, and then the curly braces. And then I'm expecting to have a big library. So I just build out a lot of zeros for now. We'll start it at 1, allow reports. We'll track the field history. So, we could see who's taken the book out on loan, who's returned it. Let me move my Zoom thing. And then we'll deploy this straight away and save. So at the moment, we've just got a very basic object, and you see it just comes in with the book name, who created it, who last modified it, and who owns this record. Not related to anything at all. And then so we know a book's going to be taken out by a contact. So we can grab this lookup relationship here, bring that one over, and then you could call it contact if you wanted. But I think, it might make a bit more sense for borrower, who's currently borrowing this book. Who is currently borrowing the book? And then, so this will be related to, this is where you can search for contact. And then the relationship name, save. And so as soon as we do that, now you get that visual representation that you can see that connection. So we could have done the exact same thing in Object Manager, but you just don't see it happening live in front of your eyes. So sometimes, it's just kind of a bit nicer here, but personal preference, you do, I guess, whichever UI you're more familiar with or comfortable with. And so this now, what you do is you'd start adding in some of those different fields. So we haven't talked a lot about the different field types, but hopefully you're familiar with most of these through your studies. But like I said, what we might do is we'll add in a text field. And this would be, book title. What is the title of the book? So quite often I'll have, the same description and help text. Very often they'll be identical for me. So, your users on the front end will only see the help text, but your admins on the back end will see the description. And so sometimes, you will want to put in some extra hints in the description, exactly why she built this field for the other admin. But for something like book title, it's pretty straightforward. I don't need to, explain much more there. We'll do maximum length of 255. And then we'll make this a required field because it's not much use having a book without a name. We don't want it to be unique because we might have multiple versions of a book. So we can save that there. Other fields we might like to put in here, a date field for date borrowed. So we don't necessarily need this required because the book won't always be borrowed. And then another field, return date. So this is another date field, sorry. Return date. And so you can see quite quickly, within Schema Builder, you can build everything out, all your different field types and things there.